Good to walk, good to walk. Um, well, I'm sitting with Malava Malka now, and don't worry, it's not like the old days. I'm not going to sing Smiris or anything. I'll do that off camera. But I wanted to talk. Was Shabbos was the yartzeit of Berach Moshe. So Chufi Galenim Chulsomein also the yartzeit of Yeshua ben Nun. And now Motzei Shabbos, tomorrow Sunday, is the yartzeit from the Garner Gadol Rabbi Avigdor Miller. So Chufi Galenim Chulsomein. And I just wanted to discuss a little bit, a few inyanim, things that came up over Shabbos and so forth. I remember the Berach Moshe and I remember Avigdor Miller. Both I met personally. Um, Berach Moshe was the first Rebbe I ever went to a Tish. I don't remember being able to see him by the Tish. It was Motzei Shabbos was the yartzeit of the Divrei Yol, of the Veil Moshe. And here in the town of Bethel, on the way to Swan Lake, it was the first year they opened the Machne Divrei Yol in the Swan Lake area, in the Bethel side of Swan Lake. And it was very special. It made a big impact on me, a big impression on me. And then 8 years later, over the years, I would still go by Berach Moshe to the Tish every year in Swan Lake. And I remember the last year before he was nifter, going to that Tish. I remember going Shalashudis in Williamsburg to Berach Moshe. And I remember one time, Friday night Tish in Williamsburg in the house, which was very special. And I remember getting Shirayim from his spoon. It was from the compote. What? Don't wake up your brother. Hey. Right. Yeah. And then I remember Hanukkah and going to Hanukkah Lech. A friend of mine from Yeshiva in Queens was the Chasna in Williamsburg. We left in the middle of Chasna going to see the Rebbe and sing Hanukkah Lech. And then we went back to Chasna. And then we went back maybe an hour or two later. What do you want? Alright, go. And then we went to get a kvittel. We went to give a kvittel. Alright, wait till I'm done, okay? And it was very special. By then he already wasn't what he once was, The very stark contrast. Okay. Very stark contrast with Avigdor Miller to last day. He was still 100% of his senses. Unfortunately, Berach Moshe wasn't zoiche to that. But even in that state of Shivrei Luchas, you felt the regal bearing of who the Berach Moshe was. Every time you were in his presence, you felt you were in the presence of royalty. You felt Malchus. By different tzaddikim, you have different feelings, different experiences. What I've experienced, you feel something different. By Berach Moshe, you felt royalty. You felt Malchus. That's what I experienced. And you felt a connection to the old generations. And in a way, it's interesting, his yartzeit was Yeshua ben Nun. Similar way, Moshe Rabbeinu to Yeshua ben Nun, to the Veil Moshe to Berach Moshe. I don't want to be marich on that. Please don't wake him up. Today in shul, it was interesting. I was introduced to both Rabbi Avigdor Miller through his forum, and then later meeting him in real life, and to Berach Moshe both through the shul where I still attend, Baruch Hashem, where I learned the kollel here by our Rav Shlita. We see his videos sometimes I put up by Rabbi Fishbein, that in his shul, I came across Avigdor Miller's Sfarim, and later I went in Brooklyn a few times this year. I have a book even that he signed. I remember talking to him with a tape, asked questions by Shir, and also Rabbi Fishbein brought me to that Tish in Swan Lake, that first time I'd ever been to Chassidish Tish. Malava Malka, I remember it was like now, but that was Chafvav Av, and today was Chafvav Nissen. Stop it. But I have these memories, and it was something very special. The Berach Moshe was heartbreaking to me. I remember he was the first Rebbe that I gave a kvittel both in life and put a kvittel by his grave also. And then something felt very, I don't know. And Victor Miller had a tremendous impact on me. Not only reading his books, you read his books by Miller, and you see he's a big kanoi, he's a big zealot. I remember when I went to his shir, and at the end you could ask questions. So I asked a question. I asked whatever it was. It doesn't really matter what the question was. But he sensed something, and he turned away from what his usual answer would be, even though he gave one answer. Then I persisted with the question. I was trying to get a little bit of kanois, which he already gave me a shtickle kanois, and I was trying to get even more. And he looked at me. He said, "Let me tell you a story." He said, "The Chovos Levava Springs, that once there was two pious individuals walking along, and they came across the rotting carcass of a donkey. And one said to the other, 'Look how disgusting this carcass is.' The other one said, 'But look how white its teeth are.'" This old song, accentuate the positive. It's true. When you accentuate and he said to me, the world is a beautiful place. If you focus on the good in the world, you'll be a much happier person. And I can't say I always live up to it. It's a big challenge. But that put into me, the Satmar will always bring about kanois. He said that kanois only has to be l'shem shamayim. It can't just be for the sake of being a kanoi, of being a zealot. Just to be angry. Like King David says in Psalm 139, Chakreni kel dalavavi derech oitz of bi, right? Seek me out, God. Look at my heart. Am I a depressed person? Am I a sad person? Is the way of depression and sadness with me? And guide me on the path of eternity, the path of the world. That if someone is really authentically a kanoi, l'shem shamayim, they're not going to be a depressed, sad person. They're going to be a happy person. They're going to love everyone. Like Rav Blau, he loved everybody. He was a kanoi. He loved everybody. Even the president of Israel came to his shul, and he welcomed him like any other Jew, And even though he was strongly opposed to Zionism, Rav Blau, everybody knows. But when the president of Israel came to his shul, he was treated with respect like any other Jew. And that's the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to love each other. That's what the Parsha says, love thy neighbor. When our Rav was saying, Rabbi Fishbein soll gesund sein, Fishbein Shliti, he was saying the Torah is not about fasting and praying. It's about the golden rule. It's about loving. It's about respecting your elders. That's what it's about. Not about all the rest is commentary, right? like Hillel said, the Gersh Skyer, and he said, "You should teach me the Torah al regel achas." So the proselyte came to convert. He asked Hillel Zaken to teach him the whole Torah standing on one foot. He said, we can imagine such a great sage. Chutzpah would be. But that's what I'm busy. Shh, I'm making a video. So no, yeah. Can you go away? So anyway, he's talking about the importance of between Satmar. He's talking about the importance of Torah Sheba'al Peh, receiving not just from books, but from real life. How this is important in the religious world, that our Judaism can't just be from books. You have to learn in person from a teacher. And the same thing in law or medicine. He told stories. Rabbi Fishbein told one story that happened by him. A lawyer. The problems that are going on in other parts of our county right now, where there's a group of secular Jews who are trying to fight to stop Torah from growing, and stop Torah from spreading, stop Judaism from spreading. And not only that, but they're trying to prevent their neighbors, the good Gentile people in the town, from making a living, because they're gonna, like the story I told before, Satmar, how much blessings Curious Joel brought to the town of Monroe. And so the same thing, and the blessings that came to all the people, to non-Jewish people, the schus of the Rebbe, schus Yiganlino, the material blessings that came. And we see now the same thing, material blessings. They're coming to people in our county, because Yidden are moving in, and they have work which they didn't have. One plumber, electrician, he said he lived in the one village his whole life, and he never had so much business. And people trying to take away business from him, these self-hating Jews who trying to take away business, that's how it is. It's a sad situation. And trying to deny prosperity and blessings, and trying to deny religious freedom. And it's an old story. We had it here in White Lake also, when the synagogue decided want to become conservative. They made a board meeting of the synagogue when all the religious people were absent. And so when they found out what happened, so they decided to break away, which the majority of the people in the synagogue decided to break away, form their own synagogue. And all the fights and the mesiras and everything that the secular Jews there made, the ones who from the old temple, which now they only open from July and August, and they can't get 3 or 4 people. They count ladies for minyan, and I'm not going to judge them. But even counting ladies for minyan, they can't get a minyan. They don't have it. Nobody's interested. And our shul and the other Orthodox shuls in the area are filled, bursting at the seams, because people want authentic Torah. And all right, if other people want something else, I don't deny them that. But here in our community, that's how it is. There's very little interest in what they have to sell there, because they gave up. But our Rav, even though they decided they didn't want this way anymore, he was strong and faithful to God, and he's successful. We had a minyan today, and the whole Shabbos, the whole Yontiv, and the whole week, and that shul not even thinking about being open. They won't open until July 4th, and they'll have 3-4 people show up Friday night. And by us, we're strong, and we have all kinds of people who are all different levels of religiosity. Some people who are very secular, but they are not enemies of the Jewish people. Being secular doesn't make someone enemy of the Jewish people. But fighting against Torah, fighting against Judaism, fighting against synagogues. That's pretty bad. That's a bad thing. And that's what we have now in our county, unfortunately, all being led by Jewish people, unfortunately. By people who go and spit on the graves of their ancestors. Anyway, the and then they go and say, oh, it's not anti-Semitism because I'm Jewish, this and that. It's not anti-Semitism. It's self-hatred. It's spitting on the graves of their ancestors. Nothing to do with anti-Semitism. And no one ever claimed it was anti-Semitism. They made up some stories and then blamed us, blamed the Hamish Yidden, because they made up stories in the public school there about anti-Semitism to take away attention from their fight to try to rob our right to vote, rob our right to religious freedom, rob everything they can, and rob jobs from the local people. One, the self-hating Jewish woman who's the leader of this organization, she owns a liquor store, and it's obvious she wants all the people there to stay poor and drunk, and so she can get rich off of their depression, so she can keep them as drunks, to keep jobs away from them. That's what she wants. And she's spitting on the graves of her ancestors just so she can keep the local people poor and depressed and dependent on the alcohol that she sells. Everybody knows it. And they're probably getting money from the state of Israel to, anyway. That's not the point. Like I said, Rabbi Miller said, we should look at the positive things in the world. There are good people. There's a lot of good in the world. And if we look at the good, we'll be happier people. It's funny. They talk about new development, and they compare it to Curious Joel. Why don't they compare it to Bayswater, or to Loch Sheldrake, or Woodridge? None of those places became Curious Joel. You know why? Because there was no fight against it. But the fact there's so much fight, this shows it's God's will and it's going to happen. Like it says, just as we were, the more we were attacked, the more we were successful. That's how it always is, as the Medrash tells us. Anyway, they not only want to steal the right to vote, they want to steal school choice from the whole county, violate the federal religious land use law. So this is what I was talking about. Rabbi Fishman, he said that they took a lawyer, and the lawyer didn't take any money. He just asked for a receipt that he donated his time to the synagogue. And he said, he made his case, he was writing it up, and he was going to cite the case law to support his arguments. And then he said, wait a second, why should I cite the case law when, let them look it up, and they're going to show how ignorant they are, and they'll find it. He learned that from experience, not from books, this lawyer. And he won the case. He told another story, a doctor, that a family was given a horrible diagnosis that their son had leukemia, a 2-year-old baby boy, leukemia, Rahman al-Islam. And they went to Dr. Gribbins in Manhattan for a second opinion, Mount Sinai Hospital. And the boy was running around tearing apart the office, and the doctor was just talking to parents. He said, 80% of my diagnoses are made already. This child is not as sick as they say if he's running around tearing apart my office. Now I'm going to take another blood test. I'm going to send it to the lab. And he called the lab, called me right away with the results. The lab called back again, and they said, it's leukemia. He said, read it again. He read it again, it's still leukemia. He said, no, read it again. And then they were like, you know what, doctor, you're right. We made a mistake. How do you know? Not from books. He learned that because he had a Masorah. And that's how he was successful. You know, like I said, that Rabbi Fishbein was talking about loving your neighbor. The Torah is not about fasting, this and that. The Rebbe Melech talks about that in this week's parsha. It says when you go into the field and you're reaping, you know, don't cut off the corners of the field. What does it mean? When you're reaping, when you're cutting away your sins. You want to do tshuva, you want to repent. Don't cut off the sides of the field, the soul. Don't be fasting so much that you're not going to be able to serve. Because the Torah is not about fasting, it's about coming back. And at the end he said that if you want to be successful, be charitable, then you can be successful in this world and in the next world. And by not running after this world, but by being charitable and sharing. And that's what everything that Satmar has always been teaching about. The most charitable community that I've ever found in my life is the Satmar community, because that's what the Satmar Rebbe taught them, is to be charitable, to give tzedakah, to be generous, to share with one another. They don't care. They're not looking to make you one of them. They don't even care, even if you're not Jewish. They go and they help anybody. And especially if they're Jewish, you know what the Bikur Cholim is all about in Satmar. You know what. And the Berach Moshe, he knew what he had, that it was the Kodon that the Satmar of that his uncle left for him, and he had to keep it and make sure that it would stay. And so that Pikadon, he kept it, and now look how big the Satmar community is, and how much chesed, how much tzedakah, how much Torah, how much Yiras Shamayim. The Satmar community. Help anybody, even someone like me who's so far away. They helped us out with open arms. They made our whole Pesach for us, made our whole Chasna, everything. They have no words to say how much thanks I have to give for all the kindness that the Satmar community has granted to our family. And can you be quiet? And Avigdor Miller was also a shtik Munah, and they loved each other, you know. I remember when I went to see Avigdor Miller speak, there was some Satmar Chassidim there, and they said, when they were talking much, and then when Rav Miller came in, they said, the Rebbes do. The Rebbes do. As Gewein our Rebbe. So now, we should be zeicher to have the type of emunah that Rav Avigdor Miller taught, the type of tzedakah and chesed that Satmar is famous for. We should all be zeicher for a lot of success and well-being, and see the growth of Torah and Yerushalayim in the coming Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Meira.